All right, we're live.
And kicking. Oh man, the waves were beautiful this morning. The beach was beautiful. Where were you, Michael Skye?
Yeah, I slept in. I was up most of the night. I was, I was dealing with some situations. One was I was watching this 2-hour-long video on YouTube about a guy who he was going into detail about how his ex-wife was a psychopath, and she had.
Is he a doctor?
She had been prostituting herself throughout the marriage.
Per his account.
Per his account, and sleeping with other guys as soon as like 24 hours after they said they were getting serious or being in a committed relationship. And he was going through, documenting it, and he said that his analysis was supported by, a doctor and all this sort of thing. And so I was dealing with that, and I was also dealing with a family member who's in a kind of a scary situation, and she feels like that she's dealing with a landlord who's crazy, and she's scared of the landlord. And she had her tires slashed recently. Mm-hmm. And, whenever anyone tells me about someone in their life who is crazy, but especially when they use these psychological labels,
yes,
like sociopath, psychopath, I instantly doubt it, and I also become curious. Because from the work I've done with the honor window over so many years, what I see over and over and over and over again is that on the other side of our judgments, mm-hmm. not only does the other person look crazy, but we make them crazy.
A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, it's like we imprison them in the jail of our judgments, and inside of that jail, that's all how we see them. It makes them crazier. I mean, maybe they were a little crazy to begin with, but it makes them continuously crazier. And the same happens on the other side, and then both of you do get crazier. You both start acting,
yes.
And there's no agreement about whose reality is right. Both sides would completely disagree about the reality that you're living in.
Yes.
And it is then also almost like both sides are crazy.
And you will never solve it that way. It's just they're fighting about, like you said, whose reality is more right than the other. And you won't win. You won't solve it.
So the challenge for me, the thing I want to speak about this morning is that so many guys today, there's the red pill movement, which I know you're familiar with to some extent. And this is like guys, it's using the metaphor from the Matrix, guys taking the red pill, meaning they're waking up to the reality of like how society really is, how women really are, what are the, like the sexual dynamics, yes, based on biology and everything else. And the men should wake up and face the facts, smell the roses. And it's I see a similar thing going on that often happens in any kind of like cultish scenario, which is you start becoming kind of like self-righteous in your beliefs about who the evildoers are, who's wrong. So you see this in like the third wave feminism, you see this in Black Lives Matter as a group. You see this in the two different political parties in the U.S. You see, it's almost like a religion.
Well, it goes a lot deeper to me, and it is. I'm going into my philosophy now, but it is the whole idea that there's a truth outside, that is not human made, and so when you put the cause of something into that world, it is very disempowering. It is very.
You mean when you narrate what the cause is,
yes,
of something?
When you narrate that the cause of something is in reality outside of you.
Reality caused it.
yes, the world is like this,
right.
Women are like this,
right.
you know. It's very like when you put the cause there and you have this strong narration of truth of how things are, then you take an attention and power away from how you want your life to be like. What is the world you would like to live in? Can you focus on your own agency and your creative power? That alone, you know, is very dangerous, and it's pervasive in the whole society. We think that way. There's a binary opposition between how the world is and how we perceive the world.
Yes.
And everybody thinks this way, and the best we can do is we can bridge this, and we know how the world really is. When you could at the same time say, okay, you can have this discourse of truth, but you can also have the discourse of like creativity. How can I shape the world that I want to live in? You know, and if guys are telling women are like this, what they do is they take away their very own agency, yes. Or they deal with their own lack of force.
Well, in a way, they can create women to be like that.
Yes.
You know, and I think this is just the case that a lot of guys are far less emotional than females. I don't think I'm revealing any great mysteries of the universe there, but not only do they happen to be, and I think this is borne out like it is a big generalization, but that on the big five, personality scale, that neuroticism is generally much higher in females, just meaning the ability to be affected by negative emotion, and but they also tend to be far more adept at talking about emotions, about dealing in an emotional world. And I think for a lot of guys, that's scary. And guys will, to deal with women, they'll just be they'll stay in their head, don't get in that scary feeling world. And they also have a sense she can totally take control of me there if I go into feeling stuff. Poor women are living in a reality where like their whole world is emotional. And he never goes there. He's just in his head, and it's like so frustrating, and I think, I'm speaking from personal experience because the longest committed relationship that I had, was with a woman who was very feminine, very emotional, and very, very, very much in her feelings, in her body, and in her emotions, and she was so frustrated with me. Like we'd be having like a fight or an argument, and to her it's emotional and it's a fight or an argument, and me, I'm 100% in my head, and I'm solving problems and I'm reasoning, and I'm not affected in the least bit, And like that fact alone probably drove her mad.
Of course.
Probably drove her to become more and more emotional.
The experience of the women there is that you don't want to meet her,
Yes. And in some parts, she just tries to make me emotional to get me to react, so she has some sense of reality, like, okay, he loves me, or okay, this is true and this is not true. Like, because I'm not meeting her with any kind of feelings, for her it was like, she can't even get a barometer for what's true about what I think or feel, or what's right or wrong, or what reality is. And this was something that really took me a long time to really comprehend. And as I did my honor window work over the years, I more and more and more and more understood this situation that women tend to face with men. And men on the other side, it's very easy for them to label women and or their ex as crazy, or even to give them the psychological diagnosis of sociopath, psychopath, whatever.
Yeah, because if you're not met emotionally in any way, it's spiraling down. It's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse until one is a psychopath and the other is a serial killer.
And she starts feeling like, am I crazy here? Am I crazy that I'm the only one that feels things? Like, she starts believing that she's crazy too, and that makes her more crazy, And it's this this thing that just multiplies out. So
even the fact, I remember even at a very young age that I would hate it when people, they say something is happening. Why is this happening? And they say, or why is this person doing that? Oh, because he's crazy, or because she's crazy. And I would always think, how does that explain any further what just happened? You know, as if, you know, the being of that person explains like crazy is what you see in the behavior. It's not the explanation of that behavior, you know, unless you go to a...
Well, if they are technically...
Yes, if you go
crazy.
to that, you know, but people go, oh, that person is crazy.
Yeah.
They say, they're not doctors.
Right.
Oh, they're crazy. And I'm thinking, what? Fuck, the logic of that completely escapes me. I'm like...
It's in a way, it's just a way of not having to think about it anymore.
Yeah, as if this is now solved, you know?
Yeah, so... It's...
That's crazy, man.
I never... One, you know, I don't take sides in those situations. And I don't believe that the best outcome is generated by taking sides.
Yeah.
But you're inclined to, you know, like for example, if a family member, if they're in danger and they feel they're in danger and you're not like validating their reality, you're not going along with their reality, they're going to feel like you're not an ally, you know? And this goes along with what's going on in America right now, you know, where basically the Black Lives Matter camp is saying, if you're not with us, you're against us. And being an ally means 100% validating our reality and not questioning it. And so it becomes like the true belief dynamic where you're either part of the cult or you're against it.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a great place where you can distinguish friendship from real allyship. And friendship being you're on my side.
Yes.
Whereas being an ally is you think of the greater good and you don't take sides. You do not take a side.
In a way, you really do. In reality, you're taking both people's sides for the best situation, but you're not taking their position for one against the other.
Yes.
You are standing for both. But to both sides, it looks like you're on the other side.
Yes.
It looks like you're with the enemy, you know?
It's like the chief between two, can we say Indians still?
Yeah.
Or is that bad now?
Yeah.
Well, I said it, okay?
Racist.
The chief between two Indians. Ooh, also. I know Michael is fuck.
But, you know, we were little boys.
He's not taking the
we were
side.
little boys. We played cowboys and Indians.
Exactly.
That's what you call
I
it.
always wanted to be the Indian.
Not the cowboy?
Yeah. And because my father had explained to me, you know, that the cowboys had taken the land of the Indians.
Well, there's this saying, like, you have too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Right? so everyone wants to be the boss, in other words.
But the chief would take neither side. He has both people in their heart.
Right, this is what we talked about on previous podcasts, where the chief is acting as he's taking all of his people into his heart, and he's trying to resolve the situation, not just for one of those people, but for his whole community, for his whole family. And that's what the honor window work is it's like chief leadership.
But that's a great definition of, or a great way to define what it means to be an ally, is to not take either side of a judgment, not take either side of an argument.
Not to just flat agree with someone's judgments as well. You know, and this can come, like, if anyone has doubts about this or wants to explore this, you facilitate the honor window enough times.
Yes.
And you start off, and the one person is telling you, you know, my father, or since we're talking about women, let's say, you know, my mom, she was an abuser. She was I'm trying to think of like really harsh judgments where you're like, oh, you know, like in your mind, as the guy facilitating it, you're just imagining
Yes.
all this terrible, raging stuff, and then you get into like, what's an example of her being X, being this judgment, and you find out it's something like very mundane compared to this way the story is being told about that other person, and then you go all the way through, and not only do you see that the person being judged has judgments of the person you're helping facilitate that makes them look terrible as well. But they're both standing for something beautiful, and so there's two different worlds there.
I think this is going to be a bit complicated. I'll give an example.
Yes.
I had my friend, she lives in Italy, Como, and we talked on the phone, and she was talking about her sister, of how she's insane, her sister, And I noticed like how...
By the way, I titled this thing, Women Are Not Psychopaths.
Yes.
For sure, some women are psychopaths, and some are insane, but...
Some men are too.
Yes.
And...
So anyway, I interrupted your story.
And she was talking about her sister, and I noticed like the friend in me in the past would sympathize and whatever, and now the ally in me does almost the opposite. As soon as I hear that, I'm thinking, oh, okay, you're judging her, your sister must be judging you, and I feel way more like I want to make a stand for her also. I say, well, when I hear this, I know what's going on,
yes.
And I'm not going to say, yes, you're...
Which is really difficult, because once it's gone to that point, it's often that the judgment has excused the really bad behavior of the one to the other.
Yes.
And they believe that the other is this terrible person. Why would you want to help this other person, this evil person? And it's and I say this, and I talk to her on the level of what's going on when we judge someone, and she's coming back with give me all kinds of proof while her sister is, and I'm like, and you could see that's a completely different way of thinking. I notice in myself, because it would be easy to agree with her, whereas right now, wanting to show up as an ally, when I see someone judging so strongly, I know that something is up there in the relationship that goes beyond, is she right or is she wrong, and I want to make that stand. And it's a complete different way of listening and being with someone than being a friend, because the friend would agree. Yes. And
the ally disagrees in a way, or the ally doesn't just agree, doesn't take a stand. It doesn't take a side
position.
Either one of the...
Yeah. I distinguish between a stand and a position, and I think I first heard this distinction in some of the landmark work I did years and years ago, and basically, I can't remember how they distinguished it, but the way I think of it is, you stand for something, but you take a position against something, and your position is made up of your conclusions about what's true, what's not true. Who's right, who's wrong, what's right, what's wrong, what the solution is, what the solution is not. So it's this very kind of like, get defensive in it, and you're ready for battle. And just you taking that posture, showing up in someone's world with your position, even though it's just in your brain, they can feel it. And then they begin to take a position.
Right.
Even if it's not articulated. Whereas both people are standing for something. So if you can come in and this is what we do with the honor work, come in and you get present to like what they're facing and what they're standing for. It's almost in a different dimension.
Yes.
The position exists in one dimension and the stand exists in the other dimension.
Well, what I've seen in my experience of the honor work is this: you got an argument, and judgments go back and forth, arguing pro and con, and you like this, and it's never going to solve it, ever. In fact, this is always going to get worse and worse and worse, unless, and this is what I noticed when you come with the honor work, is a complete different perspective on the here and now of that argument. you know, a completely different approach. And it's not about I'm right, I'm wrong. Wow, tying it back with the beginning, it's not in like accusation and blame and this is how it is. It really is about, honor is not about how things are, but like, what can we do to make this right? So you're not thinking on the level of, oh, they're right and wrong, and somehow magically we're gonna wrong the other into being right and it's gonna be solved. No, it's really thinking on the level of, what is the best way here to go forward, you know? Independent of who's right or wrong, you know? We're not, you know, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. What matters is like how we solve it. And honor is moving on that level, you know, is the best way to solve an issue, to solve an argument. Not through arguing, but through honoring the other, you know. I'm not right, you're not wrong. What matters is that we get along. And the way to get along is through honor, not through arguing, you know. So it's so fascinating to me that I see this now happening, like when my friend is talking to me, I'm seeing that argument and I know what to do about it. Whereas before I would be in the argument, you know, and somehow assuming that I'm going to solve that through arguing. And it never happens. Never, ever, ever are you going to...
You just don't know how to argue very well.
You're wrong about that. But you're never going to argue your way out. That the other person is not going to say all of a sudden, oh, wow, thank you. Thank you for calling me an asshole. I didn't see it that way. You're right.
Yeah.
You know, it's never going to happen. Yeah. And in fact, not only are you not going to solve it, it is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse unless you start honoring the other. So it's a matter, either you're going to end the relationship or you start honoring each other. That's how important it is.
Which is not as simple as it sounds, to start honoring each other.
Well, it's not easy, but it is simple.
Well, because someone could just think, okay, I honor this evil person who's been doing all this stuff to me and all this, like, that makes no sense. But rather than just say, okay, start honoring them, the invitation would be to engage with, for example, the honor window work, which can have you see this dual reality that's going on, the world that the one person is in and the world that you're in. And yeah. So now let's go back to women being psychopaths.
The fuck? Someone is calling me. Stop calling me, people. Probably a woman.
Psychopath. They're, it's a tragedy how most romantic relationships end like that.
Yes.
In total judgment. You know, they start off like in love, and the other person is the savior, the most beautiful woman ever, all of this, and then you end and like the other person is like killed off, they were terrible, they were this, they were that, and this is one of the things that seems insane to me.
Yes. If nothing else, now imagine that you do this. Imagine
that seems crazy.
Exactly.
That's the crazy.
Imagine
we are the psychopaths.
Yes.
Human beings are psychopaths.
If you think that person is the angel, and then later you think that person is the devil, shouldn't you question your own judgment?
Yeah, your own reality. Yeah.
Did you not? If you thought they were like the savior and now they're like the devil.
Does this keep repeating itself? Maybe you're a psychopath. Yes.
No, it's that person.
Yes.
They went from being an angel to a devil.
Yes. That's a pretty radical transformation.
Yes. Fuck.
So.
Yeah, the only constant in all of your fucked up relationships
is you.
It's you. Fuck.
Yes.
It's life or death, people. It's so sad. This speaks really to me because it's so sad, because I see so many relationships and they could be great together, and they start distancing, they start putting each other in prisons, and otherwise that could have been a great relationship, and now they're going to break up. Yes. And they're going to hate that person forever, and they could be in each other's life forever if they would just it's simple, but it's not easy. If they would see the prison of judgment that they're making for themselves, for the other. And if they would see how the honor work could save them, you know, could save their soul, that relationship. I know you want to say something. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more, so take your time. So if they would see that through the honor work and do it, it's fitting that you start snoring during the honor work, you know, that was developed by my friend Michael Skye. If they would see like what a magical power they have with the honor work to keep that relationship, you know, the lifestyle could change. They could be lovers, but whatever. But that would be saved. Or if it has gone sour, you could save that. You could salvage that relationship. But you wouldn't know of it, you know, the honor work.
So, not only is it like, hey, maybe we're all insane if we're starting off thinking someone is incredible, and then these people that come into our life turn out to be devils, from angel to devil, angel to devil. Hey, maybe we're crazy.
Yes.
Well, not only that, imagine we're making the other people crazy.
Yes.
We're turning all these angels into psychopaths.
Yes.
Maybe they're not just becoming psychopaths by themselves. We're turning them into psychopaths. Yes. So I wanted to just reflect that back. And all of this is not to say that there's not some people who fit this definition of psychopath. But my intuition is that there's far fewer people that just belong in this completely other world, like the way that this guy was talking about psychopaths. Because there's psychopath literature out there. The whole world of psychology is not a science like the physical sciences. We're still trying to figure it out.
I like to think they're all made. All the psychopaths are made. You have a baby psychopath? I think we're all made psychopaths with our judgments. Imagine that. That's a good thinking avenue.
I'm quite sure, I'm quite convinced that there are some people far more predisposed to being that through, inborn traits.
Not very helpful thought to me. Not a very helpful thought.
Well, I think it's something worth being aware of, that there could actually be psychopaths out there, whether they were born or made, that there are actually some people out there who don't give a fuck and they will plan your destruction, and it's, especially for people who consider themselves good people, you're empathetic, you're intelligent, you might not realize that there are people out there who operate completely differently.
I'm still alive.
But I'm much more on the side that there's far fewer of those than we think, because our perception is skewed, because we don't realize how we turn people into psychopaths in a way, and our own way of being psychopathic, in a sense, through our judgments.
I just thought maybe you were psychopathic.
Well, I probably am.
Fucking way too naive. Damn.
Yes. But, another thing I want to share is that a lot of women, I think, after some traumatic experiences in relationship with men, how they can see that there's so many more male psychopaths, in the sense of men being detached from their emotions, and they're just out there and they're sleeping with whoever and they're doing whatever they want, getting their own way, and they're not emotional. They must be psychopaths. Men are psychopaths, Whereas to men who've had these, blow-ups with women, their version of a psychopath is females, man. So emotionally manipulative and just creating all these stories and all this. There's I can see how totally in men's world, to a lot of men, women just appear generally as psychopaths.
I don't even know what a psychopath is. I just noticed. What is a psychopath?
Psychopaths. A good sign of a psychopath is not knowing what a psychopath is. Because he doesn't introspect, he doesn't look within. He just goes out being psychopathic. So you might want to look that up.
A good definition of being a psychopath is he just goes out being psychopathic. That's great, man.
No, a sign. That's a sign. That's not a definition.
It's a sign of a psychopath.
Yes.
He's doing psychopathic things.
Yes.
What are those things? Well, they were just things that a psychopath does.
Exactly. I'm just quoting the internet, okay?
I saw it on the internet. It must be right.
Yes.
With that Genghis Khan quote. It's great.
Yes. So, women are not psychopaths, except when they are.